Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and I am here with just a gaggle of G.I. Joe fans today. You're in for a very special treat. This is a new way of recording for the Joe on Joe show. We are trying what would you call this, Troy? A panel of Joe fans?
A panel?
Gaggle?
A panel, a gaggle, a zoo.
A zoo. That voice you hear is Troy Smith. He's a television colorist of almost 20 years out here in California. And he was kind enough to invite myself. And in the background, you'll hear the toileteel herself, Rebecca Wallenczak-Slepsky.
Hey,
and he was kind enough to invite us out to his home to do a panel on G.I. Joe. We're going to watch an episode today, but we're going to talk about G.I. Joe with his lovely children and his nephew. So I want to welcome to the show first his three daughters. Jasmine, say hello.
Hi.
Lily Bella.
Hello.
And Nadia.
What's up?
And his nephew, Santiago, or as we'll call him, Santi.
Hello.
Welcome to Joe on Joe, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah! Absolutely. So I'm sitting here in this beautiful home in Simi Valley, surrounded by awesome kids. Troy Smith, who's a listener and friend of the show, and he's a big time Joe toy collector. He's got a ton of stuff. We're sitting here at the table. I've got a V3. No, I guess it's a V4 Snake Eyes. We've got Flint. We've got. Is that Falcon? It looks like Falcon there. Oh, that's Falcon. Is that two Falcons?
We got Night Force.
We got Night Force Falcon, and we've got. Is this? Who is this?
I don't know.
This is Toxo
No.
Cobra.
She is actually a custom character.
Whoa, we've got a. Who's this? So it's you customizer?
I am not a customizer. We went to a toy fair in Los Angeles. And there's a guy who had like a bag of these action figures. So I've got girls, so I'm trying to find all the girls.
Right.
And he goes, "Here, I got something special for you." And Nadia picked her out. I do not remember her name. I do not know.
Because those are Baroness legs.
It's Baroness legs.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. It's
Yes.
like a she Toxo Viper or something like that,
She
right?
very much looks like it.
Yeah.
So for those who can't see her, she's yellow. Imagine Baroness's pants. So they're all yellow. She's all yellow all the way through. She has a Storm Shadow type mask, a yellow mask, and she has a red insignia and red highlights.
She's got the ponytail that Scarlett always wished she had.
Yes, very nice hair. She
Yeah.
has.
Have you ever seen the that someone sells Scarlett ponytails?
No.
Yeah, it's a little snap-on that goes around the back of Scarlett's neck for your V1 Scarlett to give her the ponytail that she had on the show.
Oh.
And it just snaps around her neck so it looks like she has the red flowing ponytail.
Yeah, she
It's great.
definitely-
It's a great add-on. So brilliant.
Absolutely.
They
They did very good with Baroness's hair.
Yes, Baroness's hair is great.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So Troy, welcome to G.I. Joe on Joe. And let's talk, we'll start with you. Let's talk G.I. Joe. When did you find G.I. Joe? What's your history with it?
I found G.I. Joe. My cousin told me about them. And what is amazing is growing up in a small town, my dad had a furniture store, but he also had toys.
And what town was this?
This is Wellston, Ohio.
Wellston, Ohio. Hello.
Yes, Wellston, Ohio. Very, very small town, about 6,000 people. And there are all these guys on the pegs looking down. I was like, I'll take some of those. I had I think 10 or 13 all at one swoop.
Yeah.
And I thought that's the way it was. Just like all these G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
And
That's how it should be.
yes, exactly. And it was amazing because he had the toy store, I got a lot of toys, which is great.
Yeah.
I didn't get everything, but I got a lot.
Do you still have those originals?
Well, I have a few regrets in my life, and one of my biggest is I sold some of those.
Bum, 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 bum.
Worst mistake of my life. Yes.
The lament of every college student.
Exactly. I did keep quite a bit, but I just sold some to a friend of mine. One thing that I lost, I don't have anymore, is the Terrordrome.
Oh.
I really missed that. I wish I had that. But when I found out I was having a son, just on a whim, I was like, let me look on Craigslist. I don't know. It's late one night. Looked on Craigslist, typed in G.I. Joe, and there was a guy selling his collection. And I was like, oh, so I talked to the wife because it wasn't cheap. It was 14 boxes.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Yeah, wow, 14 boxes. He was clearing out a storage unit that he had. And when I say 14 boxes, I'm not talking small little boxes that you get at the Home Depot. I'm talking like put the TV box in, a microwave box, huge boxes. So
And it was all G.I. Joe stuff?
it was all G.I. Joe stuff.
Wow.
So I talked to the wife. begged, pleaded. It's like, hey, can I just make like the ultimate G.I. Joe purchase once in a lifetime? I promise that if you let me do this, they will be like, oh, no more shopping for toys, because this should last me the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So she gave me the permission. I pulled the trigger, and we went to go get it. I had to take out all the seats in the minivan, and it filled the minivan. I was opening these boxes for a week.
Amazing.
Yes, and in the box, I'll just go over it. There was a G.I. Joe headquarters.
Great.
A mobile command center.
Amazing.
Oh, yes.
You can speak up.
An aircraft carrier.
The aircraft carrier, the USS Flag.
Yes.
No wonder it took a. So did you just put your car on top of the flag and drive the flag home? Is that how you got it home?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I was asleep. Me too.
Yes.
Me too. I was deep asleep, snoring probably.
Probably snoring. You look like a snorer. You totally look like. And for the record, it's because I can identify my own.
Yeah, we went late at night. My dad went with me, and my dad's like, you have cash. You're going to a storage unit. Don't you think this is kind of funny?
Yes.
And I was like, okay, yes. But usually when people pull those scams, they're not listing G.I. Joe.
No, but
it's an Apple iPod or something, So, yes, my dad went with me, and we brought this back. What else? Tell us something else, Nadia. What else was in there?
There were loads of G.I. Joes. Because before he had like a bit of a small box, and then once he got all these Joes, it so got like it grew almost. Like it was so big, like it's huge in it. Like we can't even carry it nowadays because it's so big.
That's amazing. And do you have like a room dedicated to it now here, like a man cave kind of thing?
I wish. I wish. It's funny that you bring that up because one of my dreams is to have my own G.I. Joe room.
Amazing.
But right now, everything's in a box, neatly organized. You've got the Air Force, you got the Water Force, you've got the land. Everything is in place. So I've got like a big shelf in the garage.
Well, I saw some that were being actually in play out there, kids. You guys were playing with them when I came in, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so let's start at the top. Lily Bella, what's your favorite toy to play with?
My favorite toy has to be the Sky Striker.
Amazing. And is it the original Sky Striker or is it the Sky Patrol, like the chromed out one? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
Troy?
It's original.
It's the original?
Yes.
Amazing. Does it still have the parachutes in it?
Yeah, we have some parachutes.
Have you ever thrown those?
Yeah.
They're great, aren't they?
Yeah.
I used to hang out my bedroom window, and I was on the second floor, and I had a window right by my bed, so I would just hang out the window, pop the screen out. My parents were not happy about it, and I had 3 parachutes, 2 from the Sky Striker, and then I had one of the regular parachute toy, the actual one they sold separately, and I would just throw them down, and then have to run all the way downstairs to get them before my dog realized that I just thrown parachutes into his yard.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was always an adventure. Live the adventure,
Live the
as the
adventure.
slogan said.
Yes.
Santi, what about you? What toys do you like to play
I
with?
really like the X-Wing and the Sky Striker.
The X-Wing, I love it. The Conquest X-30?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, the Conquest is so cool with the reverse wing design. Do you like Slipstream as a character?
I don't know.
I don't think he knows who
Did it come
Slipstream-
with Slipstream? Or
you are correct. It came with
Yeah.
Slipstream, but I don't think he knows who Slipstream is.
Yeah, it's so kids. When I was coming up, I was such a weirdo about stuff. Like whoever drove the car or whoever flew the plane, they had to fly the plane. Like there was no trade-offs.
Yes, I didn't know the others could drive it.
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly that. In fact, we just were recording the episode we previously did. They had Footloose, and he was in. Oh no, it was the comic book. That's what it was. It was on Joe and Joe Illustrated, which, by the way, you could find on my Patreon at patreon.com/JoeandJoePod. And it was when they introduced Footloose, and he was in the Armadillo. But that was my introduction to the Armadillo as a comic reader. So I thought Footloose drove the Armadillo. So therefore, my Footloose could only drive the Armadillo, even though the Armadillo didn't have driver. The Armadillo was for everyone.
Exactly.
Not in Joe's world. Joe's world was Footloose drove the Armadillo. Therefore, I feel like I reduced Footloose, and I owe him an apology. That's the way I work.
Joe and Joe listeners know that I love comic books, G.I. Joe, pop culture, and my wife and dogs are pretty great too. I also love learning how people get to where they're at and where they're going. All of that comes together over at the Dreamer Comics podcast, except for my family stuff. That'd be really weird. Omar Spahi interviews someone from the comic industry every episode, and they break down the journey that creator took to get from reading comics to creating them. Comic luminaries like Jim Valentino, Ross Ritchie, Kyle Higgins, and so many more can be found at DreamerComicsPodcast.com or find him anywhere you get your podcasts. Everyone has a dream. Learn how to make yours a reality.
Jasmine, what's your favorite G.I. Joe toy to play with?
The aircraft carrier.
The aircraft carrier. Oh, see, I feel like you're just a homer. Like you're just saying like the most popular toy ever, but I like it.
She thinks
I like
big.
everything about it. You think big, you dream big. What about the USS Flag do you love?
Yeah.
What about it? Like, do you like the lift? Do you like that other toys can ride on top of it? What's appealing to you?
I like that the toys can go on top of it.
I thought so. By the way, Hasbro, I'm going to charge you for like, what do they call it? When they get a bunch of kids in the room. Why am I blanking on that word? When they do surveys, like a panel, you know what I mean? Market research. Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna charge Hasbro for market research on this. And Nadia, what is your favorite G.I. Joe toy to play with?
Well, I like to play with the planes and the boats.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the boats, sometimes we'd like to grab them, like play with them in a pool. So like we grab the boats and we'd use like boogie boards to put the platforms on. And we just had the time of our lives playing with all the boats.
That's so brilliant. You could totally put the Air Sea platform on a boogie board. Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You totally put that on a few boogie boards, and then Nadia, you're awesome. That's such a great idea.
That is a good idea. I never thought about that.
Yeah. When you're done playing in the water, do you make sure you dry all the figures out so that the bolts, the screws don't rust and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Troy, do you do any like repair work? Did you have to do repair work on the figures that once you got it from the collection?
Yes, I did. I did quite a few O-ring. I guess what do you call them?
Replacements. O-ring replacements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of loose figures.
And do you know? This is more for the listeners in case they don't. Where do you get your extra screws from?
I got them. I think I found some at Home Depot.
Oh, they do. They sold screws that size?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I took some in and to kind of like.
Do you know where I got? Do you know where I got mine from? That works for you listeners at home? Cassette tapes.
Oh.
Because they're very small, and I was having trouble finding them. But the screws that held together old school cassette tapes, those are the screws that fit into G.I. Joe.
Now, girls, do you know what a cassette tape is?
Girls, do you know what a gramophone is?
The gramophone is a phone full of grandma.
Thank you for saying that. That was my joke, and I'm so glad you ran with it. That's brilliant, Jasmine. That was so great. Yes, it's totally a phone for a grandma. Oh my gosh. So now the cartoon. Troy, where were you with the cartoon when you found it, like the animated series? What was it late? Were you younger or like early years of the show? Or
Yes.
was it okay?
I'm definitely early years of the show, early 80s. I think I was there from the very beginning, all the way up to the movie. So that's all that I knew. My mother tried to encourage me to read when I was young, so she got me a subscription to the comic books.
Love it.
Yes. It just took me 32 years to read them. Now I read them to the kids, and it's kind of like sometimes our bed night story. Like, let's sit down, let's read a comic, and the girls love the comics.
So let's talk about comics. So comics are about like characters, right? And they're about like the people in them. Do you guys have? So we talked about specific like toys, like the planes and the carriers. Do you have specific figures that you love? We'll start with Lily Bella. What about you?
Two of my favorite figures are my two favorite girls are Lady J and Scarlet.
Yeah, yes, Queen.
Any boy favorites?
Probably Flint and Snake Eyes.
Awesome. Do you have a version? Are we talking about like original Scarlet and original Lady J, or is there a different iteration that like because Scarlet was also a ninja. She came with the Ninja Force for a time.
I'm not too sure. I just play with whichever one I can find.
She's pretty great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like her crossbow?
Yeah, it's so cool.
I think those two, Lady J and Scarlet, both came with two of the cooler weapons. Because everyone else, you give them a different type of gun. Okay, great. But then she had a crossbow, and then the other one had the spear. I think that was just so inventive and so wonderful. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Santi, what about you? Do you have any special big
I really
actual
like
characters?
Falcon and Snake Eyes.
Awesome. Have you seen the movie?
No.
Okay. Well, Falcon is like literally the lead character in the movie. You need to watch that movie. I think you'd love it. And he's voiced by 80s heartthrob Don Johnson. Also, if you don't know what a cassette tape is, you won't know who Don Johnson is.
Or a VHS tape.
Or VHS tape. Yeah. But yeah, Falcon, you should watch the movie because he's literally the lead character in that movie. And Snake Eyes, I wish there were an animated version that, well, I guess in the Resolute stuff, Snake Eyes was pretty much a lead.
Yes.
You know, they made him in the 2000s. But like this stuff that we watched, grew up on, Snake Eyes wasn't used much because he's mute. And so it was harder on the cartoons for them to tell a story about a character that literally couldn't talk. We did a Ninja episode a couple episodes ago where it was him and Storm Shadow, and you could see that there's these moments of like silence on the show, and I could see how that could be really difficult. Have you read the silent issue of the comic?
I read the Snake Eyes book.
Oh yes.
The Snake Eyes miniseries,
Yes.
the ongoing series that the Devil's Duel.
Duel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool, and he's pretty great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to show you the silent interlude, because then you'll love him. Have you read his origin?
I don't think so.
No. Oh, there's so much more to learn. He's so cool. Did you see the live action stuff? No. Oh my gosh. You're on the beginning of a journey, Santi.
Yes.
I'm so excited for you. You're going to find this stuff. You're going to love it. Because he's the best part of the live action movies too. Because they do use him pretty well in the live action movies. For sure. And they get into his origins and stuff. It's pretty great. Jasmine, what about you? Do you have a specific character that you love?
Yeah.
Who's
My
that?
favorite character is Cobra Girl and Scarlet and
Yes.
Lady J.
Yes. CoverGirl, Scarlet, and Lady J. I love that.
And my favorite Cobra is the Baroness.
Yes. Absolutely. Cobra Baroness, she transcends Cobra. She's pretty great all around. I love that you love CoverGirl. Do you guys have the Wolverine?
Yes.
You do. So CoverGirl drives like literally one of the meanest tanks that the Joes have ever had. A tank with just missiles. Like, that's a tank that's like, I'm not going to screw around with little things. I'm just going to destroy you. CoverGirl does not play. Plus, she's a high fashion model, so she can hang in both day and nighttime environments. Nadia, what about you?
Well, I really like to play with this yellow Joe that I have right here.
Yeah, the custom one.
Yeah.
Have you named her? You should name her.
Well, I did give her a name. It was Sarah.
Sarah. I love it. I love it. Is that her code name? Because it could stand for like S.A.R.A. Like special assault reconnaissance attacker.
Yes. There we go.
You know what I mean? So she's, and then just give her a code name. I don't mean to impose on your play style. If she wants to just be Sarah, she can be Sarah. But I think there's some fun there to be had.
And then I think at one point I did rename her, but then I forgot the name.
Oh, I feel like I did that to fish when I was a kid. We used to have a fish tank, and we would get a lot of fish, and I'd name them, forget what I named them, and have to name them again. And then I felt bad because I was like, I don't know if they heard me name them, but now I'm calling them something different. Meanwhile, kids, they're fish.
Maybe that's why they didn't come to you.
No, yeah, that was the excuse I used.
Yes.
And Troy, what's your favorite G.I. Joe character?
I have to go with Flint.
I love Flint.
Falcon is a favorite, but I just didn't like what they did to him in the cartoon, the movie.
Yeah.
He was kind of a mess up.
He was a punk out in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot not to hate about what they did in that movie with him. Like,
Right.
You're bringing in it's the best way to phrase this with kids in the room. Yeah, he's just a romantic cad with that lady,
Right.
That turns out to be Zorana,
Right.
And sells out the whole Joe team,
Exactly.
But meanwhile, hitting on Jinx,
Right.
Like,
Let me show you everything you've got here.
yeah, he's the worst.
Yes.
Yeah, he's absolutely the worst.
Yeah,
But
so-
he gets snapped into shape by Sergeant Slaughter.
That's right.
That's
the Marauders.
important.
Yes. And so he comes around.
Yeah, I did reach out to Don Johnson. He hasn't returned my tweet.
Oh, shame.
But Flint's great. Did you hear our episode with Bill Ratner?
No, I did not. I'm sorry.
It's on there. We'll yeah. It's I forget exactly what episode, but I had Bill on. about a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, you'll
Okay.
love it. Yeah, you'll love it.
I definitely will dig that up.
He's the best, and you just hear his voice talking Flint. We watched an episode together, and it's awesome. It's
that must have been so surreal.
Yeah, it really was neat, and to see him, like his face lit up. He hadn't watched those shows, I don't know, 20 years. Like it's not like he's a busy man with a real career,
right?
And he's like, oh my god, this is great, and he's telling stories and hearing all his friends' voices come out of it. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, so check that out, kids. If I remember the episodes, I would plug it right now, but find it on our feed. It's still available.
So for my girls, Bill Ratner was the voice actor who played Flint in the cartoons.
Really?
So Joe spoke to Flint in real life.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of the first times I met him, he was such a nice guy. I was enamored. I was enamored that who he was. It was pointed out to me, and I was like, oh yeah. And he called my friend Matt, who lived in DC at the time. It was like 2 a.m, so we got his voicemail, and he just left him a Flint voicemail.
Oh wow!
Hey, we're hanging out here in California with Lady J and Joe and sunbathing. The whole 9 yards. And it was we were early in Los Angeles, and I was just like, I'm gonna love living here. Like this is why we moved out here. I don't meet Flint in Chicago.
That's a voicemail you never delete.
I hope he hasn't. Yeah, it's pretty great. So I mean, I've been on. Listen, I'll take my turn now. I love Snake Eyes. Right here, give it up, Santi. I love Snake Eyes. I'm a front runner. Jasmine, you're a front runner on the USS Flag. I'm a front runner on Snake Eyes. I love him. He was my first Joe, the G1 or Generation 1 Snake Eyes.
Wow.
That was the first Joe I got. It was a birthday present, and I was like, I didn't know what G.I. Joe was. I was like, what is this? And my friend pointed out to me, they're new military guys. And I was like, but he's awesome.
I never had him as a kid.
Any iteration?
No. I could never find him in the store.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So it came in the box that I bought.
Yeah.
The 14, The 14 boxes. There's like, Snake Eyes, yes, you're mine.
He's so cool. I'm looking right now. It's like I said, it's the V4 one, right? I believe it's V4. And it's the so he's got like the dog catcher mask look on with the red goggles. So
right.
It looks like he's hanging out with Alpine, climbing mountains. A little too much blue in my opinion, but I can see how that would pop in the cartoon.
Absolutely.
Like as a color. And after doing 3 versions that were pretty much black and gray.
Right.
And then, do you know the and I know a lot of people know because it was on the that show, The Toys That Made Us, which is a brilliant show.
Yes, you girls have seen that.
You guys are watching, yeah. And I never knew that was why Snake Eyes was. But I never gave much thought to it. That's the original Snake Eyes wasn't actually painted.
Right.
It was just black plastic, and it was because they didn't want to afford. They couldn't afford a paint job on him because they spent the paint money on other people.
Right.
So that's the reason he's so cool. Is because they tried to. It's the G.I. Joe version of making the movie Jaws.
Right.
The shark didn't work, so Spielberg found inventive ways to make it exciting.
Right.
And in that case, they wanted another figure. They didn't have the money, so let's figure out a way to make it cool. Oh, we just make him a fully black ninja dude, commando, and that's it. And it turns out to be he's Snake Eyes. That's why Snake Eyes is the Jaws of G.I. Joe.
That's right. He's fan favorite.
It's so true. So, girls, I'm in Santi. I'm sorry, Santi. I don't mean to lump you in. I don't mean to lump you in. So I'm going to say kids. I feel like that's demeaning, but it's not demeaning. You know why? Because you're young and hold on to your youth. And I say that as an old man. Hold on to it. Hold on to it.
You guys are not holding.
I'm just kidding.
Nobody's holding.
Today we are watching. Today's going to be part 1, and we are absolutely going to come back next week for part 2 of a very fun episode called Long Live Rock and Roll. And it does feature rock and roll. It features the Sonic Fighters. It features the Air Battlers. There's a lot of sub teams on this episode. There's like multiple groups of sub teams that are going to be on this episode. It's really great. It's a lot of fun. It's got shades of Cold Slither.
Oh, great!
Yeah, but not as catchy. We'll get into it on the show. But we're gonna watch it and we're gonna have a whole good time. Are you guys ready to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listeners, before you hit play on your DVDs, make sure you go online and find me on both Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at Joe and Joe Pod. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com if you want to be a guest on your show. Certainly, if you live in the California area, invite me to lunch like Troy did. Have my wife and I over and we'll hang out at your house and it'll be delightful. Or if you don't happen to be in Los Angeles, we'll get you on Skype. I love having guests on, and the show's really there's a limited lifespan on this, guys. We're running out of episodes, so if you want to comment on it, get in there now. So shoot me a note via any of those modules. And make sure you go to patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod and see how you can help support the show. And I think, I think that's it, Troy.
All right.
Kids, you ready?
Yeah.
Troy, you ready?
I am ready.
Toilet Teal, you ready? Yeah! Yeah! All right. And here we go. And it's exciting to get this cold open. I don't know, Troy, if you've followed along on, or if you're where you're at and listening to the show, but this season of DIC, they start with these cold opens on the show, which is weird for cartoons, right?
Yes.
And I feel like I comment on it every episode, but I love it. I love that they did that with this.
Oh, there's Falcon.
Yeah, there's Falcon, everybody.
So there's your favorite.
And check this out. Do you see how Falcon asks Rock and Roll a question? We spend 5 to 10 seconds taking an elevator, and Rock and Roll answers. They were so starved with filling animation time on this season that, like, it's painful to watch that. The pacing on these 2 episodes. So this is a 2-parter, guys. This is Long Live Rock and Roll Part 1, of course. And as in other DIC episodes, I don't think there's enough story to account for 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of moments in these shows, these 2 episodes, that are like really long takes. They're like laboriously slow to get there because they had time to fill.
Right.
Yeah. Wherein I think the earlier seasons, when they did 2-parters, there was a reason it was a 2-parter. There was enough plot, enough different changes and twists that made it for that. There's no real twists in this. There's just trouble. They get in trouble and they get out of it. We get to this exciting opening. All right, kids, you guys see anyone in these in this opening with all these figures? Anyone that looks familiar? No. Oh yeah, that was Heavy Duty, and that's there you go. There's some guys topside. There's Heavy Metal. And what do you think about this theme song? Are you familiar with this theme song? Yeah. Have you guys now, Troy? Have you watched a lot of the DIC stuff with them, or mostly the Sunbow, like the Real American Hero, that version?
They've seen the movie.
Okay.
And that was a different one. And I think they've seen a couple of the original Sunbow.
Yeah.
So they know the G.I. Joe theme song.
That's great.
And we've been trying to prepare for this. We watched some of the ones that you've already...
love it.
So we caught up.
So written by Doug Booth. Doug Booth, he did a lot of Transformer stuff. Doug Booth's a talented writer. So, and there's some really funny lines in this episode, like for real. And we open on a rock and roll star. So immediately, what do we think of?
Cold Slither.
Cold Slither, they'll be coming for you. A band of vipers waiting for you.
I don't know.
Something like that. Is it? Yeah.
I was brainwashed by that point.
Cold Slither, though, was so amazing. And that's what's missing from these episodes.
Yes.
We go the rock and roll route, but the song that they use is not catchy. It's not great.
Right.
It's
oh, look, there's Scarlet.
Yeah, there's Scarlet girls.
Snake Eyes.
Scarlet and Snake Eyes. Yep.
The Snake Eyes.
And there's Falcon, not voiced by Don Johnson. In the break, Santiago Googled Don Johnson, and now he's a big, massive fan of Miami Vice. Isn't that right, Santiago? No, that's not true. Oh.
There was someone up in a tree.
Yeah, so
Wiggling.
playing the role of Old Man Logan is Hawk, who's very upset about this rock and roll. But here we go, rock and roll, the actual rock and roll.
Right.
Yeah.
Rock and roll is our hometown favorite from Malibu, California.
Absolutely. And we visit on Major Blood and Cobra Commander. So this episode has a ton of like sub teams, and it's got the Sonic Fighters, and these 2 are the Air Commandos, I believe is the Air Commandos. I think they came with those gliders.
Yes, and those gliders also came in that 14.
You have those?
Yes, I've got some.
That's so cool.
Yes.
That's so cool.
14 boxes.
And there's just so many sub teams happening on this episode. It's hard to keep track of. Later on, we meet the Interrogator, who was part of a sub team.
And the Cobras had a weird voice.
Cobra Commander they do have weird voices, don't they? You know what? You're the second guest in a row, and I mean this absolutely truth, to comment on the Cobra's voice.
I like this.
And I think that means you're pretty smart. That was Jasmine, by the way. Take
Yes.
full record. Take full credit.
I like the look of the hooded Cobra Commander. I'm glad they brought that back. The battle, was it battle armor?
Yeah,
Cobra
battle armor,
Commander. Okay, but the hooded Cobra Commander is just.
I totally agree, and I even like the larger format eyes because you see more and it's a little more expressive, and it's more cartoony that fits in with the style of this iteration of the show. Yeah, I think Cobra Commander looks really great. His colors are a little bolder too, like the red, a little bolder red. And because it's a two-parter, the Joes kind of have to lose early on. And here we go. This is Extensive Enterprises.
Oh, Extensive Enterprises is back.
Yeah, we haven't seen Extensive Enterprises in like at least a year, at least one whole season. They were not on season 1 of the DIC stuff.
Wow.
So we're in an Extensive Enterprise building. They mention it by name later, but that's where we're at. And we see that Cobra's got this entire elaborate setup.
Oh, wow, they're wiring the whole building.
Now, Major Blood, as you can see, seemingly has a normal human arm. Where do you stand on the Major Blood, is it a robotic arm debate?
Oh.
Do you know about this? Are you familiar?
Yes, they're talking about it back and forth, whether he does or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. As a kid, all I remember is I felt gypped because his arm didn't bend.
See, I never had him as a kid.
Okay.
So it wasn't even a debate for me. And he was so quickly written out of the comic book because he wasn't really in it all that much. It wasn't on my radar at all. And then as an adult, I've gone back and been like, yeah, wait a minute. Did he have a robot arm or not? Because here, it's definitely human.
Yes, definitely.
But then in the 2000s cartoon, Resolute, it is robotic. He gets his arm cut off in that show. But, you know what I mean? But I think in the early iterations of the show, they said it was just armor to protect against a rocket that would blast off his arm. So I don't know. I need answers.
So do I.
I feel like all of these are just random threads of the G.I. Joe multiverse. There's a version of each universe where he's each one.
Well, maybe, with prosthetics these days, it's still robotic, but it looks real.
That could be true. This could be an amazing prosthetic. You're absolutely right.
There was a guy, and he used his motorcycle to go up the stairs. Is that illegal or not?
It is very illegal, and they should not be driving motorcycles up the stairs.
Or downstairs.
Yeah, or downstairs, because it's not safe. It's not safe to do that. Absolutely not safe. So there's
the rat.
The rat, and you have a rat in the other room.
Yes.
I was not familiar with the rat, and in that scene, he just said, "Get ready, the rat." And I always thought, when I was prepping, I thought it said the raft, and I was like, "Oh yeah, he throws this rock and roll guy onto a raft." But that's the name of the toy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so they're name checking it for you kids at home.
Yes, and no, we do not have rats or mice running around our house.
No, not actual rats. No, not real rat. The toy rat. And they've kidnapped this guy, and his name's what is it? I knew I was going to blank on. It's like Donnie Destructo or something like that. I'm going to call him Eddie Van Halen.
Yes, the rock star.
The rock star, and he's pretty great, and he's pretty dopey, for sure.
Definitely.
And I do like to say that his outfit is straight out of the cartoon Gem.
And he still has his guitar, which is nice.
Holds on to his guitar, because that guitar is his lifeblood.
Yes.
The guitar is everything to him. And he has a specifically placed star over his left nipple. So I imagine either for censor purposes or they didn't have to animate it.
Maybe.
Yeah. But he's wearing an outfit that Zorana would be proud of.
These three people with jetpacks, and those jetpacks look like helicopters.
They're jetpack helicopters. You're absolutely right. This episode is 100% toyetic. This is really driving home the toys.
What I found interesting is they're going through the riverbed, and then they go into the tunnel, and all of a sudden the water turns green.
Oh yeah.
So it's like sludge.
Yeah. Well, toxo vipers.
Yes.
You gotta figure cesspool is hanging out somewhere.
Those slimy guys.
Yeah. We'll write that. We'll write that fanfic where this is cesspool's headquarters. But yeah, that is absolutely raw, unchecked sewage, which I feel is not safe for the citizens of Enterprise City. Because if that's now, it is a different design than the original Extensive Enterprises buildings, but it is an Extensive Enterprise building. So I don't know exactly that we're in Enterprise City, but I'm going to say that we are.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll roll with it.
A mind control thing on the Joes.
Yeah. Whether it's more like a vibrational shake apart thing. They're not controlling their mind, but they're destroying their weapons, which is really powerful because they're not. How are they going to stop this sonic thing? And it's going to give them a headache. Now that's the new design Psych Out. Are you any of you kids familiar with Psych Out? No.
Isn't he like a guy? He's got the flashlight.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back.
Today's file card features on the Sky Patrol Weapons Specialist, codenamed Drop Zone. His file name is Samuel C. DeLisi. His primary military specialty is the Sky Patrol Weapons Specialist. His secondary specialty is the Special Forces Advisor. His birthplace is Poteau, Oklahoma. Drop Zone loves his job, every olive drab bit of it. He's at his best when the cold wind hits his face as soon as he steps out of a C-130 transport at 20,000 feet. He relishes the smell of gun oil and nitro solvent on his MAC-10. The sound of artillery rounds soaring overhead is music to his ears. He still can't believe that he actually gets paid to have this much fun. Quote, just because he volunteers for every hazardous assignment doesn't qualify him for a special commendation. This guy is fully aware of all the cruel realities that accompany a battle. His main concern is to successfully complete the mission to the best of his ability. Drop Zone is a true G.I. Joe dogface. He believes that duty and honor still have a meaning in today's complex society and that Cobra is lower than pond scum. Drop Zone's kinda just bland. He's brown. He's made out of a Night Raven or Stratoviper body with a new face. But he's brown. You know, he's got the silver parachute, you know, and he apparently he likes fighting and he loves olive drab and he's gonna go gung-ho, and that's it. There's nothing really exciting about Drop Zone. I gotta be honest with everyone here. I mean, there's nothing really that grabs me here. He's got the cool helmet and visor. You know, he's got the parachute and the parachute case, and that's always great. It seems like they reused old bodies in order to save money because of the cost of the parachutes and all that stuff. So that all makes sense. Ultimately, I think Drop Zone's kind of forgettable. There's nothing even on his file card that stands out. So Drop Zone, Samuel C. DeLisi, we salute you.
Exactly. The psych out, you might know, he's green and red, and he has like this little sonar dishes on his wrists. Mm-hmm. Do you know? Do you guys have a?
Yes.
Troy? Do you guys have a psych out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Antenna on the back of his head.
Mm-hmm. This is the redesign of psych out. I like the original psych out better. This one seems boring to me. This is not as exciting. And it's rock and roll.
I think that other guy is Tracker, and
Tracker.
He has the 34, which is the USC. He looks like he's wearing a USC jersey.
Yeah, so it's like a football jersey.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's celebrating OJ? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. I blame Tracker.
Oh, and he came with a raft, so there's a raft.
Yeah, he did come. You're absolutely. Oh my God, I didn't even put that together because I had to look up who he was, and you're absolutely right. He did come with a raft. Everything in this episode is a toy.
Yes. That's the way it should be, right?
Yeah, and even there's sonic backpacks here.
Yeah.
That are getting blown up by all these sound waves. So when you kids play with G.I. Joe, do you guys do what kind of play scenarios do you do? Lily Bella, what about you? Do you guys do like stories, or do you just do do they go on adventures, or do you like pit Joe versus Cobra? How do you play with G.I. Joe?
Well, usually we would kind of just play and fiddle around with them. Mm-hmm. Most of the time we would spend 1 or 2 hours just setting up for a battle.
And then you're too tired and the battle never happens.
No.
Because they realize peace is a much better way to be.
And then
Nope.
No, they don't, Joe.
And we take
let me be me.
We take a 2-hour lunch break and then go back outside. And then we start fighting. We always make G.I. Joe in. Mm-hmm. Because G.I. Joe.
1 second. This is an amazing line. Check this out.
A bill of goods.
A mere trifle, Commander, compared to the job I did persuading you to give me a...
That might be my favorite line on almost any episode I've ever heard. I love that line so much. The interrogator is so good at convincing people things. He convinced Cobra Commander to pay him more money, and it's a throwaway line on the show, and I love it. Doug Booth, that's for me, that's good writing, because he finds a way to make fun character joke that had nothing to do with the plot, but advance shows you who this interrogator guy is. Which, by the way, this interrogator guy, frightening. Do you guys have the interrogator as a toy?
I have to dig in the box. I don't know.
Yeah, he's. I wasn't familiar with him, but he was part of the. He's one of the sublines, and he's frightening.
He came with a helicopter or
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would see a ninja. I would be like, "Who is this or what is this?"
And if you couldn't answer it, would you make up a name for him? It's okay to say no. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
I would ask my dad who he is.
And would you use yojo.com as a resource to try to track him down?
If I needed to, absolutely.
years ago. God, this would have been like 2000. It was like 2003, and I brought my Joes from my parents' house for the first time in 15 years at that point, and I had I was putting everything back together and matching everything, and I was just on yojo.com matching everything. He's searching by the color of the weapon to this, to that, to that. It was awesome. Like
Yes.
it was a great project.
And the memories come back really fast.
They really do, yeah. And then I would be upset because certain things would be broken, and I knew I didn't put them away broken, so that means I just put them away poorly when I was 13, you know. So I was upset with my 13-year-old self. Like, of course the flags on the stun are gonna break off, dummy.
Right,
Like,
when you just throw them in a box.
yeah,
and
of course they're gonna break off. It'd be better.
Store them in a hot attic.
I don't know a lot of Joe's names, so that's why I need to ask my dad.
Yeah, well, that's very good. It's a good resource. If you don't know something, never be afraid to ask. I think that's a really good lesson for people, because you're never going to learn if you don't ask.
I'm very impressed with the names that these girls remember, because they know quite a few of the guys and quite a few of the vehicles. They're trained pretty well.
My favorite half Joe and half non-Joe is Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch from the Avengers.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes?
We
Yes.
play with how do I say this? Like,
So do you bring other toys into your G.I. Joe adventures, like
we
Marvel?
play with different figures and different peeps.
That's so great.
And back to our play, we always make G.I. Joe win because
Cobra never wins.
yeah.
Oh.
G.I. Joe is like freedom and stuff.
Yeah.
Like loses off the field for a soccer game.
What's
Because
yeah?
it's a soccer game and the Joes win, and then they say that whoever loses send them off the field.
Oh, well, there was an episode of the cartoon where Cobra challenged G.I. Joe to a football game. A real, for real, let's play football and fight game.
That's not fair, because the Joes have football players.
The Joes have Captain Gridiron, first of all, and
William
the Refrigerator Perry.
And Red Bull.
Red
Dog.
Red Dog. Yeah, Red Dog. He was named after like the audible for why am I blanking on football terms? I used to play football. An audible for a blitz would be like a Red Dog, and that's what they named him after. Yeah.
I remember them saying they kicked him out of the NFL in the movie, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Because he was too rough.
Too rough for the NFL.
Yeah. Something like that. And he like destroys a football or something.
Yes.
Yeah. So on the show, Eddie Van Halen, and I'm so sorry I keep forgetting his name. He's struggling with Metalhead, flying above the city. Everyone's in the G.I. Joe battlecopters, and he's trying to rescue his guitar. So it's like his Lucille, if you guys are familiar with Lucille was B.B. King. And so rock and roll guy, Eddie Van Halen, falls to his doom. That's a gravity break, kids. We'll be right back from this commercial.
Hey, listeners, if you're anything like me, all apologies to your family. I'm just kidding. It's likely that they made you this way. No, I'm talking about that I'm always looking for more G.I. Joe content, and I think I've found it. Stop what you're doing. Okay, don't stop listening to this podcast. Can't you multitask? And go to Facebook/Special Mission Force. Brian Wilkins is curating all kinds of wonderful, nostalgic G.I. Joe content, including new pics from his fantastic Instagram page @Special Mission Force. On his Instagram, he's taking photos of Joes out in the wild, in the real world, doing stuff. For me, the two things that stand out the most are his variety of characters that he takes pictures of, and like the depth of field in these pictures. It's just a wonderful job of directing focus for you. I think you really will enjoy his work. So like him on Facebook, follow him on Instagram and Twitter, and get ready for his website, specialmissionforce.com. He's a name to watch in the G.I. Joe game, so get on board now. Now back to the show.
And whenever there would be,
Don't worry, Billy. I've got you.
I forgot my
Oh, that's okay. But Billy was rescued. Billy was Billy something. Billy was rescued by the glider guys. I am blanking on names today. I think it's because we had such delicious lunch. My head is not used to processing food. Yeah, and this is amazing. What I find really funny about this whole episode is Billy is so dumb. How dumb is he? Apparently, none of you kids never went to the Catskills. So Billy is so dumb. He's convinced by Cobra that they work for the government and that G.I. Joe are the bad guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the thrust of this. Is Cobra's convinced this guitarist Billy that they're the good guys, and so that's why he helps them with this whole scheme that they have, this sonic, destructor beam that they're going to have him play his guitar on. So even after all this, kidnapped, dropped over the city, rescued by these strange dudes in military-looking camouflage versus these punk rock-looking nightmares, he still thinks the punk rock nightmares are good people, maybe because they're punk rock looking nightmares.
Maybe.
That might be why. That's really funny.
One thing that just keeps blowing my mind is they're using these gliders like they're planes.
Yes.
They go up, they go down, they never run out.
They never run. Yeah, there's in the last episode, Scarlet, she was in a literal jetpack. So one, it would weigh more, and two, it had jets, and her jetpack ran out of fuel, and the gliders, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, on a glider, they were far away, had enough time to swoop under and get her before she fell into a volcano. That's not how gliders work.
Well, maybe in the hands of a ninja.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe ninjas have glider speed.
Whenever there would be like a Joe that's here, then it would be like Gojo, or whenever there would be a Cobra, then it would be Cobra.
Yes, absolutely. So when you guys play Santi, do you guys split up, like one side be Cobra and one side be G.I. Joe, or are you both? Do you guys like you're both characters?
When I play with them, it's Uncle Troy, he's Cobra, and all of us.
Yes. And so all you kids are G.I. Joe, Nadia?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really fun. And do you honor like the rules of like I shot you and then that person's been shot with a laser, or is it no you missed? Is it one of those things? Like, do you argue about whether or not your attacks hit?
Well, like sometimes we would actually do it like, oh, I've been shot, get me some medical help. Or like sometimes it would be like, hey, you missed me, and then like the person gets hit. I'm indestructible.
That's the best kind of play.
Whenever, like the only Cobra I would be is one of the Dreadnoks and the Baroness.
Oh, Dreadnoks. I love that. Do you like the Dreadnoks? They're pretty fun, right? Do you have a favorite Dreadnok? Do you like Buzzer or Ripper or Torch? Zorana's pretty great.
I like all the Dreadnoks, but except for Tarzan.
You don't like Zartan?
Only when he doesn't have like the weird outfit.
Do you have the Mohawk Zartan? Do you have both?
No, I don't have that.
Oh, because that's a weird looking Zartan.
Yes, it is.
I wasn't even aware of that Zartan until relatively
either.
recent. Yeah,
Right.
and I saw him. And I think they used a look of that in the comics at some point. And I was like, what? I didn't get it. I didn't realize that was how he was looking in the comics. With the pink or orange Mohawk or something.
Yeah, so strange.
Yeah.
So strange.
I don't like how he looks for Joe, like for the one that we have.
Mm-hmm. Does yours still change color when you put him in the sunlight? Yeah. That was the coolest thing.
It really was.
It really was. The same window that I would throw them out of in my bedroom for the parachutes, I would put Zartan in that window, and that's where he would change color, and then he would be able to go under camouflage. So, kids, it's that time of the show on Joe, when I ask my guests, of which you guys are amazing, if you could be a member of the Joe team, G.I. Joe or Cobra, what would you be, and what would your code name be? Nadia, can I ask you to go first?
Sure. I would want to be a Joe, and I would want my code name to be Muscles.
Muscles!
Muscles.
And now, why is that?
Because I think that I have good muscles.
That's awesome! And what would your job be?
I would want to be like a tanker or one of those guys like Quick Kick.
Okay, a tanker or martial arts person? How about both?
Yeah, well.
And what qualifies you in martial arts?
Well, I did judo for a while.
Amazing.
And what do you do now?
Right now, I do soccer and gymnastics.
That's so cool. So would you be a part of Ninja Force?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, we just wrapped up with an amazing first episode. And what did you guys think of that?
I thought it was really rock and roll. rollish.
It was rock and rollish. There's a lot of good music.
I don't know if that's even a real word.
Yeah, I think so. So, Muscles, you take judo and martial arts and gymnastics, and you're a tanker. So I think you drive a Ninja Force vehicle. I think that's what you do. You're a part of Ninja Force, and you provide, because ninjas can't always just be stealthy. Sometimes they need, firepower. Yeah, They got to get where they're going.
Right.
I think you're a tank driver for Ninja Force. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Joe and Joe Muscles. Welcome to the team. Way to go. Let's give it up for Muscles. Everyone give her a hand. Woo! Santi, if you could be a member of the G.I. Joe or Cobra team, you can be a Cobra. Who would you be and what would you be?
I would be a Joe. And I don't know about a code name, but
Okay, well, what would you do?
probably a pilot.
Okay. And what does he specialize in? Like you said earlier before we were on the mic, you said you play soccer,
Yeah.
right? So do you think maybe your guy would be like an ex-soccer player or something like that? Like we were saying, there was football players that joined the team. So maybe you're an ex-soccer player that decided you want to fly. Maybe that's it.
Yes.
Maybe that's it.
You'll shoot the goal.
I got an idea. So you're an ex-soccer player that you decided to join the Joe team, and your name is Call the Ball. Right? Because that's what they would say when airplanes land on the USS Flag, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. They say a lot in the movie Top Gun. That's what made me look it up. And it's a term that I believe the tower would basically give. It's when they would give control. And guys, listeners, if I'm getting this a little bit wrong, please bear with me. But I believe it's where they would give full, like, it's the call. It's the pilot's decision to go forward or not. They'd be like, "Are we set? Are we ready to go? Yeah, land." Like the strip's clear and everything. And they use a lot in that movie Top Gun. They say, "Call the ball," and it's giving. It is your call as the pilot that you can land, so you're in control. So I think your name is Call the Ball.
Call the ball. I like
And
it.
you wear like a soccer-inspired uniform. Does that work?
And whenever there would be a soccer player, then you would like shoot the goals.
Oh yeah, and I think on the side of your plane, I'm not sure what aircraft you fly, but there's soccer balls painted for sure. Like there's soccer balls. Like on all your missiles, there's a soccer ball.
Yes.
So you're flying in on a Cobra base and you're like, "I'm gonna call the ball," and you go boom, and you drop a missile or a bomb on it. How about that? Call the Ball. Welcome to Joe on Joe. Give it up, everyone, for Call the Ball.
All right.
Oh my God. Well, listen, girls, Santi, Troy, I'm so happy. This was such a great episode. You guys want to come back next week and we'll watch episode 2?
Absolutely.
Yeah, see how everything wrapped up because Billy's still kidnapped. Cobra just started their sonic weapon that's going to destroy the whole city. I think we're in a lot of trouble. Do you guys think the G.I. Joe team can pull it out?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so too.
they could totally pull it off.
Well, we're going to find out next week. So, listeners, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next week. And kids, now you Joe. And Joeing is half the battle.